Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going deep, really deep, into the fascinating world of the inner consciousness.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
It is. We're diving into a book from 1908, believe it or not, by William Walker Atkinson. It's called, you guessed it, The Inner Consciousness.
1908, that's going way back. People were thinking about this stuff over a century ago.
They were, and Atkinson's book really shook things up back then. We're not just talking everyday thoughts here. We're going way beyond that surface level.
Yeah.
Yeah, that curiosity we all have about what lies beneath our everyday awareness, that's what we're tapping into.
I'm ready to dive in. It's amazing to think that folks were grappling with these ideas so long ago.
Right. And what's even cooler is that Atkinson wasn't just theorizing in a vacuum. He was drawing on the work of some pretty big names in psychology at the time, guys like Lewis Hamilton and Taine.
Okay, so he was in good company. What were they all figuring out?
Well, they were starting to understand that a lot, and I mean a lot, of our mental activity happens outside of our normal awareness.
So, there's a whole lot more going on in our minds than we even realize.
Exactly. It's like we're only aware of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to our own minds.
Oh, I love that analogy. Atkinson uses the iceberg, right? I remember reading about that.
He does. He borrowed it from Sir Oliver Lodge to really drive home this point about the vastness of what he calls the inner consciousness.
So that tiny bit we see above the water, that's our conscious mind, the stuff we're thinking about right now.
Exactly. But below the surface, whoa, there's this massive hidden world. That's the inner consciousness, according to Atkinson.
It makes you wonder what's lurking down there. But hold on. I thought it was just conscious versus subconscious, like two levels. Atkinson is talking about something way more complex, right?
You got it.
Hey.
He wasn't a fan of that simple two-level model of the mind. He thought it was way too simplistic.
So instead of just two floors, it's more like
A mental skyscraper. At least that's how he described it. He envisioned a mind with many rooms or levels, all with their own unique purposes and functions.
okay, mental skyscraper. I like it.
Yeah.
So if we were to take the elevator down to the basement levels, those lower regions of the inner consciousness, what's going on down there? What did Atkinson find?
Buckle up. He takes us on a wild ride through the realms of instinct automatic actions. He even talks about cellular consciousness.
Whoa, 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 cellular consciousness.
Stop there.
Our cells have some level of awareness.
That's what he's suggesting. Think about it. How do we heal a cut? We don't consciously tell our body how to do it, right?
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about it that way. It's like there's an intelligence operating within each cell. Is that what cellular consciousness is all about?
It's a pretty mind-blowing concept, right?
Yeah.
But those basements hold even more than cellular awareness. Atkinson talks a lot about habits, for example. You know, how we form them, how they take root in our minds.
Yeah, definitely. Like learning to type. I remember being so slow and deliberate, but now my fingers just fly across the keyboard. It's automatic.
That's your inner consciousness taking over. All those conscious efforts you made initially, they got downloaded to those lower levels. Now your inner consciousness is running the program effortlessly.
It makes sense now why breaking bad habits can be such a struggle. They're ingrained so deeply in our inner consciousness, like they have a life of their own down there.
Exactly. And what about instincts, those primal urges we all experience? Atkinson has a pretty vivid way of describing them, too.
Lay it on me.
He talks about the whole menagerie within us. It's this idea that we're carrying around the mental imprints, maybe even instincts, passed down from our ancestors.
Okay, so there's a bit of the caveman and cavewoman living in all of our subconscious minds. That explains a few things. But seriously, are we saying we're just controlled by these ancient instincts?
Not at all. Atkinson makes it clear that it's not about being controlled by instincts, but being aware of them. He believed we can manage these urges using our higher mental faculties. We have the power to choose.
Phew. That's a relief. Okay, so we've got habits and instincts lurking in the basement. Anything else we should be aware of down there?
Oh, yeah. Atkinson emphasizes the power of suggestions. We're constantly absorbing suggestions, good and bad, throughout our lives. They become almost like mental habits, shaping our thought patterns.
That's kind of scary when you think about it. Like, all the advertising we're bombarded with, they're literally trying to plant suggestions in our minds.
It's a reminder that we need to be mindful, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about what we choose to think about, but also those messages we passively absorb.
It highlights that we're constantly shaping our inner consciousness, whether we're doing it intentionally or not. Wow, this is already blowing my mind, and we're just in the basement.
Right. There's so much more to explore in Atkinson's mental skyscraper.
I can't wait to see what else he has in store for us.
All right, so we've explored those basement levels, the deep recesses of instinct and habit. What's next on our tour of Atkinson's mental skyscraper?
Well, let's move up a few floors to what Atkinson calls the mental storehouse.
The mental storehouse. Okay, I'm intrigued. What's he talking about here? Is it like our memory?
It is. It's Atkinson's way of describing our vast memory bank, the place where all our experiences, thoughts, impressions, everything we've ever encountered is stored.
So kind of like a giant mental warehouse. But he emphasizes that this storehouse isn't just some passive archive, right?
Exactly. He makes it clear that this storehouse is an active force. It's shaping our character and influencing our future actions.
So it's not just about storing stuff away. It's like those memories, those experiences, we're actually building something, right?
I like how you put that. It's like we're constructing our own mental house, brick by brick. And the quality of those bricks, well, that's going to determine the strength and beauty of the final structure.
And the quality of those bricks depends on our thoughts and memories, right? So if we're constantly dwelling on negative stuff, those are some pretty shoddy building materials.
Exactly. Atkinson uses this powerful analogy to get this point across. He compares the mind to a bowl of muddy water, all murky and unclear.
Okay, I'm following you. The muddy water is like our negative thoughts.
All right. And then imagine a fresh, clean stream starts flowing into that bowl. Gradually, it starts to clear up the mud, making the water pure and clean.
Okay, I get it. The fresh stream represents positive thoughts, right? We're actively cleaning up that mental mud.
Precisely. It's not about beating ourselves up over past mental clutter. It's about recognizing that we have the power to tidy up. We get to choose what we store in our mental warehouse.
That's a much more empowering way to look at it. But what about those memories we can't seem to shake? The ones we'd rather just forget?
Yes. Atkinson definitely acknowledges the incredible capacity of this mental storehouse, especially its ability to recall vivid memories, even those we thought were long gone in moments of extreme stress.
It's like our mind is holding on to all this stuff, even things we're not consciously aware of.
Right. He gives these really interesting examples, like someone falling from a high bridge. In those few terrifying seconds, their entire life flashes before their eyes. Or a person who's drowning, they suddenly remember things they haven't thought about in years.
I've heard stories like that, yeah. It's like the floodgates of memory open up in those moments of crisis.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what else is stored down there, just waiting for the right trigger to surface.
Huh.
But this mental storehouse isn't just about storage, right?
You're right. It's not just about storage. Atkinson believed we can actually utilize this power. We can actually put this mental storehouse to work for us. He was particularly interested in what he called automatic thinking.
Automatic thinking. What's that all about?
It's when problems get solved effortlessly, almost like magic, while your conscious mind is occupied with something else.
Oh, I've totally experienced that. It's like when you're wrestling with a problem and you finally decide to take a break, and then bam, the solution just pops into your head while you're doing something completely different.
That's it. And it's not just us everyday folks who experience this. Atkinson quotes this psychologist, Thompson, who describes how a solution suddenly appeared after he shifted his focus. He even mentions Mozart.
Mozart, the musical genius.
The one and only. Mozart claimed that musical ideas would just flow to him, fully formed, without him consciously crafting them.
Wow. It's like those aha moments, but on a much grander scale. It almost makes you think there's some unseen force operating behind the scenes making those connections.
That's where Atkinson introduces the idea of inner conscious helpers. He suggests it's like having these helpful little beings, he even uses the word brownies, working away in our mental warehouse.
Brownies. That's a cute image. So like little mental elves organizing our thoughts, making those connections and delivering those aha moments.
Precisely. They're busy behind the scenes, working their magic.
Okay, I love the brownie analogy. It's making this all feel a bit more approachable. So how do we put in our orders to these helpers? I'm ready for some creative breakthroughs. But seriously, how do we engage with this inner conscious power?
Well, Atkinson provides some techniques. He starts with being clear about what you want. You have to formulate a specific question or request.
So shouting, "Fix my life, inner consciousness,"
Yeah.
isn't going to cut it.
Probably not. You need to be specific about what you need help with, what problem needs solving, what goal are you working towards.
Okay, so be specific. Got it. What's next?
Once you've got your question or request, hold it in your mind with this firm command, a confident expectation that it will be answered. Believe in the power of your inner consciousness.
So it's more than just hoping for something.
Right. It's about aligning your conscious and subconscious mind towards that goal. And finally, you have to let go. Don't micromanage the process. Trust your inner conscious helpers to do their thing behind the scenes.
It's like the sleep on it approach. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to step away, give your mind a rest, and let those brownies do their magic.
Exactly. Atkinson really believed in the power of the subconscious mind to work things out when we're not consciously interfering. And, he wasn't the only one exploring these ideas back then. He highlights the work of another fascinating figure, Charles Godfrey Leland.
Charles Godfrey Leland. Okay, I'm not familiar with him. What did he bring to the table?
Leland had this concept he called forethought. It's kind of like consciously setting an intention, but with this inner consciousness twist.
Forethought. So thinking ahead, but with our inner consciousness.
It's more about deliberately activating the inner consciousness to focus on something specific, like giving a bell a little tap, just enough to maximize its sound.
I like that imagery. So we're giving our inner consciousness a nudge in the right direction.
Exactly. Leland believed that by intentionally setting an intention before sleep, we could prime our inner consciousness to work on it while we rest.
So it's like planting a seed in that fertile ground of the subconscious before we drift off. What kind of results did he have with this forethought technique?
Leland claimed to have achieved remarkable results. He said he could induce desired states of mind, even influence his actions, using this method. But he was also careful to say that it's not about expecting instant perfection.
So it's not some magic bullet.
No, he believed that true mental mastery takes time and consistent effort. Like any skill, it requires patience and persistence.
Makes total sense. But all this talk of helpful brownies and mental nudges, it does sound a bit mystical, doesn't it?
I can see how it might seem that way. But remember, we're talking about a book written over a century ago.
That's true. The language might be a bit outdated, but those core concepts are still relevant, right?
Absolutely. And they're supported by the experiences of many people, not just Atkinson and Leland.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued by this whole idea of engaging my inner consciousness. But I feel like we've only scratched the surface here. We spent all this time in the basement and the storehouse, but there's still those upper floors of Atkinson's mental skyscraper to explore.
You're right. We've laid the groundwork. We've explored those foundations of the inner consciousness. But now it's time to ascend to those higher levels.
The realms of intuition, inspiration, maybe even spiritual insight. That's where things get really exciting.
You got it. And that's where we're headed next.
Wow, what a journey so far, right? We've been down to those basements of the mind, exploring those deep-seated instincts and habits.
Yeah, and we've rummaged through that vast mental storehouse, unearthing all sorts of memories and impressions.
But now I'm ready for the penthouse suite. Those higher realms of intuition and inspiration that we touched on earlier. Those are the areas I'm really curious about.
It's definitely where things get really exciting, that's for sure. Atkinson doesn't shy away from the mystical side of the inner consciousness.
Yeah, I was picking up on that. But he also provides these practical ways to actually access these higher faculties.
Exactly. He believed these weren't just airy-fairy concepts. They were real powers that could be developed, honed, and put to use.
Okay, so let's start with intuition. Those moments when you just know something without a logical reason, like a gut feeling, but stronger.
A hunch, a flash of insight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Atkinson really digs into intuition, right? What's his take on it?
He defines it as a kind of direct knowing, a way of understanding that goes beyond the step-by-step reasoning process.
So it's not about logic. It's more like
A knowing that comes from somewhere else, deeper within.
I've always been fascinated by that. He talks about artistic inspiration as a prime example of intuition, right?
He does. That feeling of being guided by something bigger, something outside of yourself. When ideas and creative solutions just seem to flow effortlessly.
Oh, I've totally felt that. Like
Wow.
when I'm writing and the words just pour out, it's like something else is taking over.
Exactly. Atkinson even brings up the ancient Greek idea of the demon, a creative spirit that guides the artist's hand.
A demon. Wow. That's pretty powerful imagery. When I was younger, I used to brush those feelings off as just my imagination. But Atkinson suggests there's something more to it, right?
He does. He connects intuition to this something within that he believes guides and protects us. It's often dismissed as mere imagination, but Atkinson thinks it's a powerful force.
And one we can tap into. He even ties it to the idea of conscience, right? That inner voice that nudges us towards doing the right thing.
You got it. It's like there's this deeper wisdom within us, and intuition is how we access it.
So it's not just about those bursts of artistic inspiration. This something within can guide us in all areas of life.
That's what Atkinson suggests. He believed this inner wisdom could help us make better decisions, navigate challenges, even live more fulfilling lives.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we know if we're really tapping into true intuition or just getting carried away by our emotions? How can we tell the difference?
That's the million-dollar question. And it's one that Atkinson grapples with, too. He emphasizes the importance of discernment.
Discernment. So being able to distinguish between true intuition and those fleeting impulses or desires.
Exactly. It takes practice and a willingness to be really honest with ourselves.
And that's where the work we did in the mental storehouse comes in, right? Clearing out those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs so we can hear that inner voice more clearly.
Precisely. The quality of our mental building materials really impacts how clearly we can access those higher levels of awareness.
It's like trying to tune into a radio station amidst all this static. Right, you got to clear the interference to get that signal.
Perfect analogy. So cleaning up our mental act is essential for tapping into intuition.
But Atkinson doesn't stop there, does he? He hints at even higher realms beyond intuition.
He does. He suggests there are realms of spiritual insight and awareness that go beyond even intuition. But he's careful about how he talks about these things.
I bet. It's like he knows words can only take us so far.
Exactly. He acknowledges the limitations of language to describe these higher experiences.
It's like he's opening a door to a whole new world, but then leaves the exploration up to us.
A perfect way to put it. So we've gone from the basements to the penthouse suite of Atkinson's mental skyscraper.
What a journey. It's mind-blowing to think we have all this potential within us, this power we often don't even recognize.
Right. And the key is consciously engaging with our inner consciousness.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting. Where do we even begin?
Atkinson reminds us that we are far more than just our surface thoughts and feelings. We have this incredible reservoir of creativity, wisdom, and power within each of us.
We're not just passengers, we're the architects of our inner world.
Exactly. You get to choose the materials, the design, the atmosphere of your mental landscape.
I love that. It's so empowering, but it can also feel a bit overwhelming.
Absolutely. But remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Right. Maybe the key is to start small. Try one of the techniques we discussed. Maybe Leland's forethought. Tonight, before you drift off, hold a specific intention in your mind.
Maybe you want to find a solution to a problem, or simply cultivate a sense of peace. See what unfolds.
It's like planting a seed and seeing what grows.
And the more we tend to our inner garden, the more we'll reap the benefits.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for guiding us through Atkinson's fascinating world.
My pleasure.
And to you, dear listener, we encourage you to continue the exploration. Remember, the power to unlock a richer, more meaningful life truly does lie within. Until next time, happy exploring.